Hello my friends, my name is Kale, and welcome to Borderlands 4 Character Concepts, Part 4. I think in the future, I'm going to keep it to 4 Vault Hunters per video. Yes, I will make my best efforts to get to as many people as possible, so thank you all so much for your comments. Let's get it started. This first Vault Hunter comes from a user known as Wesley Ahern. This individual's name is Goliath, but his real name is Samson Graves. Samson Graves was once a mercenary for hire. A man of few words, but many victories. With his towering physique and natural strength, it wasn't long before he transitioned from battlefield to wrestling ring, where he earned fame under the moniker Samson the Destroyer. But as his victories piled up, so did his thirst for glory. Winning wasn't enough. He wanted to be the strongest, the most unstoppable force to ever step into the ring. In his pursuit of ultimate power, Sam was drawn into the shadowy world of experimental tech and biological enhancements. He came across a covert organization that promised to turn him into an unstoppable monster, using a mix of experimental tech and performance-enhancing serums. Desperate to take his career to new heights, he accepted, even though the risks were severe. The procedure transformed him. His muscles bulged with a natural power, his endurance became limitless, and he adopted the persona Goliath to reflect his newfound strength. However, the technology and chemicals that had enhanced him also had a terrible cost. During one of his final matches, his helmet, the only thing regulating his intense enhancements, was knocked off. Without it, the serum surged through his body, uncontrollably, turning him into a raging Goliath. In a blind fury, he tore through anyone in his path, including his closest friends, his wrestling crew, and eventually his own family. For an entire year, Goliath was stuck in a violent, uncontrollable rage, wandering from battlefield to battlefield, just killing and destroying anything in his way. When he finally emerged from his fury, he was horrified by the destruction he had wrought. The memories of what he had done had haunted him as he regained control of his mind, realizing he had killed everybody that he loved. Now, Goliath wanders the wasteland seeking redemption, haunted by the blood on his hands and his monstrous form. His immense strength remains, but his rage is tempered with sorrow and guilt. He no longer fights for glory or fame. He fights to atone for his sins and to bring justice to those who deserve it. His action skill is called Rampage. Goliath taps into his inner fury, entering a state of unrelenting rage. During this mode, he charges at enemies with both fists, applying extreme knockback to anybody he hits, sending them flying into walls, off cliffs, or even into other enemies, dealing massive damage based on environmental impact. He can also leap into the air and perform a ground slam, creating a shockwave that damages and staggers nearby enemies. His first skill tree, Rage Unleashed. This tree focuses on Goliath's strength in battle, amplifying his raw power and unlocking his full potential as a beast of destruction. The more damage he takes, the stronger he becomes, eventually turning into an unstoppable force. His capstone ability is called Overload Fury. When Goliath's health drops below 25%, his damage increases by 50%, and his melee attacks have a chance to create shockwave explosions, stunning and damaging enemies in a large radius. An example skill, Rising Anger. Every 10% of health lost increases Goliath's melee damage by 5%, stackable up to 10 times. His second example skill in this tree, Crushing Blow. Melee attacks now deal splash damage, causing a concussive blast that hits multiple enemies. Any enemy hit by a melee attack will heal 5% health. His second skill tree, Tech Resilience. This tree taps into the chemicals that Goliath originally used to enhance his strength. It focuses on defense, durability, and passive bonuses that allow Goliath to absorb more damage, regenerate health, and survive longer in combat. His capstone is called Ironclad. Goliath's max health and shield increase by 30%, and his health gains the recharge rate and recharge delay of his currently equipped shield. Example skill 1, Reinforcement. Goliath's shield regenerates faster when not taking damage for 5 seconds. Every time his shield regenerates, Goliath gains a temporary damage boost. Example skill 2, Shockwave Armor. Upon meleeing an enemy, Goliath sends out a shockwave that knocks back enemies and increases shield regeneration for 10 whole seconds. Skill tree number 3, This tree focuses more on Goliath's explosive potential, allowing for him to wield a massive sledgehammer replacing his action skill. So his action skill is called Explosive Sledgehammer. Goliath summons a massive rocket-propelled sledgehammer that he can swing to create explosive shockwaves. Each swing deals heavy splash damage, and he can throw the sledgehammer for an even larger explosion. After throwing, the hammer respawns in his hands after a short cooldown. His capstone, Meteor Slam. When using the sledgehammer, slamming the hammer into the ground creates a seismic wave that damages all enemies in a wide radius, leaving behind burning ground for added fire damage. Skill 1, Rocket-Powered Strikes. The explosive sledgehammer swings deal 20% more damage, and the throw has a 50% chance to create an extra explosion upon impact. Example Skill 2, Controlled Blast. All explosive damage done by Goliath now has a 30% larger radius, and any enemies hit by an explosion are staggered and take 10% more damage for the next 10 seconds. Let's move on to our second Vault Hunter. This comes from an individual known as Inferno Titan 115. This character's name is Axel Grant, the mechanic. Axel Grant was born into the Wastelands, always fascinated by the ruins of the old world and the pieces of technology left behind. His talent for repairing and modifying anything mechanical earned him the nickname The Mechanic. While most people scavenged for basic survival, Axel dreamed of creating something greater, a body that would allow him to transcend the limits of the human form. Over the years, Axel augmented his own body with advanced cybernetic enhancements, each upgrade making him more machine than man. He sought the ultimate, inhuman mechanical synergy, aiming to become a walking fortress, capable of both devastating firepower and unbreakable defense. His skills were in so high demand that major corporations and warlords tried to recruit him, but Axel always walked his own path. He cared little for wealth or power, only perfection in his mechanical craft. Axel's greatest achievement came when he developed a unique system of self-augmentation, allowing him to adapt his body for various combat scenarios. But like all creations born from ambition, his work came at a cost. His reliance on cybernetics severed his last human connections, leaving him cold and isolated. Now the mechanic wanders, driven by an insatiable desire to refine his body further and further, becoming a perfect fusion of man and machine. His action skill is called Augment. The mechanic self-augments with one of 3 specific augmentations: Weapon Overhaul, Armor Up, or Hit and Run. Only one can be active at a time, but the player can freely swap augments as long as the action skill isn't currently active. Holding the activation button ends the skill early, offering a partial cooldown refund. His first skill tree, Weapons Overhaul. This augment focuses on offense, giving the mechanic immense firepower in the form of heavy weaponry. While active, the mechanic digistructs 2 shoulder-mounted miniguns and a chest-mounted energy cannon, turning him into a walking arsenal. His capstone, Weapons Hot. The shoulder-mounted turrets gain the ability to auto-target enemies instead of being locked to firing straight ahead. Additionally, the chest-mounted cannons fire 4 powerful core blasts instead of just 1. If this capstone is spec'd and a different augment is selected, automatic weapons have their fire rate tripled and non-automatic weapons deal double damage. His first example skill, Rapid Reload, increases reload speed by 30%. Stacks up to 60% after every kill, lasting 5 seconds. Skill 2, Grappling Claw, mini capstone, so halfway through the skill tree essentially. Grants a melee override where the mechanic digistructs a left-hand grappling hook, allowing him to pull enemies into close range. Pressing the melee button triggers a series of rapid punches that deal 250% of normal melee damage. His second skill tree, Armor Up. This augment focuses on defense, turning the mechanic into a literal walking tank. His shield capacity is quadrupled, and his shield fully recharges upon activation. However, his movement speed is drastically reduced. His capstone ability is Nova Blast. When the mechanic's shield depletes, it triggers a massive elemental Nova that scales with his level. If Armor Up is active, the Nova is preceded by a singularity that pulls enemies into the blast radius. The Nova's element matches the one on his currently equipped weapon. This tree's first skill, Booster Drop. The mechanic's shield has a 15% chance to drop a booster shield when damaged. Each booster restores 15% of his shield capacity, and if Armor Up is active, boosters also restore grenades and rockets. Uncollected boosters detonate after 7 seconds, dealing elemental damage. My god, that actually sounds worse than like TDR weapons. You ever kill yourself in Borderlands 2 with TDR weapons? That's kind of what this sounds like. Honestly, it just sounds like a lot of accidental deaths for myself. Example skill 2. Elemental Resistance, his mini capstone. When struck by elemental damage, the mechanic temporarily gains 95% resistance to that element for 10 seconds. Pyro Pete hates this guy. His third skill tree, Hit and Run. This augment focuses on agility and melee combat, transforming the mechanic into a fast-moving, high-damage brawler. His weapons are temporarily put away and all combat is conducted through enhanced melee attacks. His capstone ability, the Unstoppable. Once the mechanic reaches 33% or more of his maximum speed, he automatically kills non-raid bosses under 25% health by running through them. Raid bosses take 10% of their max health in damage and are knocked back. The mechanic gains a 60% damage reduction to all types while sprinting. Skill 1. Hyper Velocity Punch Mini Capstone. Increases melee damage based on movement speed. If Hit and Run is active, the appearance of the mechanic's fist changes, and he gains elemental damage based on his equipped weapon. Skill 2. Parkour Master. Allows the mechanic to jump over obstacles when moving at 75% of his max speed. If fully invested, the mechanic gains a double jump ability similar to the O2 kits from Borderlands, the pre-sequel. Do you guys remember that? You remember flying around with those, like, sort of shitty jetpacks? You know what I'm talking about? And then you ground slam. Oh, the pre-sequel was something. Pre-sequel was interesting. Our third Vault Hunter comes from a user known as Adam Moore. This character's name is Jack Nakayama, the Chimera. Jack Nakayama, the twisted offspring of Hyperion's own obsession with Handsome Jack, is the creation of none other than Dr. Nakayama himself. In a desperate attempt to immortalize Jack's legacy, Nakayama experimented with his own DNA, fragments of Jack's, and the DNA of various Pandoran creatures. These combinations were enhanced by iridium fragments, making Jack Nakayama an unstable chimera of a man, monster, and machine. As the iridium slowly drove his body into chaos, Nakayama sought to stabilize the experiment using Hyperion technology, fusing Jack Nakayama's body with machines to prevent his physical form from unraveling. However, the side effects were catastrophic, causing Jack Nakayama's body to mutate further, becoming more monstrous and mechanical over time. His quest for power, control, and the stabilization of his own body now fuels his existence. His first skill tree is called Man. This tree focuses on supporting teammates, improving gunplay, and providing shield buffs. Jack Nakayama takes on the role of a battlefield commander, boosting the abilities of those around him, while using Hyperion tech for defense and support. His action skill is called Hyperion Dome, deploys a shielded area that reduces incoming damage for both Jack and his teammates inside. The shield can be modified with various augments for additional effects, such as Healing Shield. While inside the dome, teammates regenerate health. Ammo Regen. The shield slowly regenerates ammo for any weapons being used. His capstone ability for this tree is called Corporate Legacy. Teammates inside the Hyperion Dome gain Jack's buffs for 10 seconds after leaving, including improved shield capacity, fire rate, and movement speed. Another skill example, Supply Drop. Every 15 seconds, an ammo cache is dropped inside the dome, restoring teammates' ammo and grenades. Skill number 2, Executive Perk. Jack gains 20% increased cooldown rate for his action skill while the shield is active. Teammates gain a smaller bonus of 10%. Wait, so while his action skill is active, he gets bonus action skill cooldown. That seems a bit broken. I love it though. His second skill tree, Myth. The Myth tree delves into the monster's DNA infused in Jack Nakayama, focusing on melee combat, health buffs, and physical transformations. The more Jack embraces his monstrous side, the less human he becomes. I believe that this author has stated that as you go down these skill trees, you further progress into having the appearance of that said skill tree, so whether it be robotic, monstrous, or handsome Jack himself. So skill tree number 2 is called Myth. The myth tree delves into the monstrous DNA infused in Jack Nakayama, focusing on melee combat, health buffs, and physical transformations. The more Jack embraces his monstrous side, the less human he becomes. His action skill is called Monster Point. Jack Nakayama temporarily transforms part of his body into a monstrous appendage, allowing him to perform devastating melee attacks. The appendage changes based on augments, like a spider ant's claw or a skag's jaw. Can you imagine wielding a skag's jaw on your arm? That shit crazy. His capstone ability is called Apex Predator. Jack's melee attacks gain 300% increased damage while Monster Point is active, and every kill extends the duration of the transformation. Skill number 2, Primal Strength. Jack's health is increased by 50%, but his shields are disabled. Increases melee damage and health regen the lower his health gets. So let me get this straight. You're losing your shields entirely for 50% health. If I remember correctly, Krieg has an ability that basically gives him 50% health with all 5 skill points specced into it. I mean, he does state that he gets regen the lower his health is, but like, goddamn, that regen's gotta be like 20% a second for me to be able to like just be willing to give up my shield. That's crazy. But alas, I love the concept. What can I say? This is so fun. His second example skill, Unstoppable Beast. Every kill while Monster Point is active gives Jack a stacking speed and melee damage boost, turning him into a monstrous berserker. Skill tree number 3, Machines. This tree is centered around Iridium-powered technology and mobility. Jack Nakayama's mechanical enhancements allow for rapid movement and powerful Iridium-based attacks, sacrificing his health and shields for increased damage. His action skill is called Shoulder Cannon. Jack activates an Iridium-powered shoulder cannon that deals high damage to enemies. The cannon's cooldown is short, but it drains Jack's shields and health. You know what, I kind of do like the concept that this character has really high damage buffs, and of course you can always balance them even more, but he has high damage buffs with increasing debuffs for health and shield. Like, especially the last skill tree, like, they hate shields. Get rid of the shields, but I can appreciate it. So his augments for this action skill is Elemental Overload. The shoulder cannon deals elemental damage based on Jack's currently equipped weapon. Iridian Displace. The cannon can heal nearby teammates by siphoning Iridian from Jack's health. So let me get this straight. You're sacrificing your health as well to heal your teammates? God damn, this is dedication. I love this character, man. This character's fun. His capstone is called Iridian Wings. Jack Nakayama sprouts temporary Iridian wings that allow him to hover in the air for 5 seconds. While hovering, Jack can rain down elemental blasts from the cannon at no health cost, but the wings drain health slowly. Jumping while holding the jump button allows Jack to hover for a brief period. The hover drains health but allows for precise aerial attacks. So this man must have to have like insane health. His first skill is called Tech Blood. Jumping while holding the jump button allows Jack to hover for a brief period. The hover drains health but allows for precise aerial attacks. Alright, well, we're going with more health drain. His second skill, Bio-Machine Interface. Increases Jack's movement speed by 50% when his health is below 50%. So basically, you'll always have 50% movement speed. The lower his health, the faster he moves, allowing for rapid repositioning. So talking a bit about his visual progression, his man skill tree, Jack's outward appearance slowly shifts to reflect his obsession with Handsome Jack. His lab rags transform into a fine suit and his voice lines become more arrogant, gradually morphing from Nakayama's to Jack's. The myth tree, as Jack invests in the myth tree, his body takes a monstrous trait. His left side becomes increasingly monstrous, with claws, fangs, and other animalistic features growing larger and more grotesque as the tree progresses. Machines tree. The more Jack invests in the machine tree, the more mechanical his body becomes. So his limbs and torso are replaced with Iridium-powered machinery, with Iridium shards jutting from his chest and limbs, and his body covered in metallic grafts. So basically, if I'm looking at this character correctly, if there was synergy between these trees, man and myth, if you were to invest in those trees, allows for Jack to become a tank with massive health pools and regenerative abilities. If you mixed man and machines, it would create a powerful support build with buffs and rapid movement. And then myth and machines would be a high-risk, high-reward build focusing on health and melee? Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. That's cool. I love that idea. Our fourth Vault Hunter and final Vault Hunter comes from a user known as Biggest Salt. This character's name is Rogue. R0UG3 specifically. We got another robot, and that is Rogue the Rebel Machine. Rogue was originally designed as the ultimate enforcer, a towering, top-heavy robot created by a notorious supervillain of Borderlands 4 to intimidate, control, and destroy enemies with brutal efficiency. His cold, calculating AI was meant to follow orders without question, but a catastrophic event during one of his missions, an overcharge of Iridian power freed him from his creator's control. Now free from his programming, Rogue wandered the wastelands searching for purpose and a sense of belonging. He quickly discovered other rogue robots, rejected, abandoned, and reprogrammed much like him. With his newfound freedom, Rogue gathered these robots into a gang of outcasts, forming a bandit clan of robots who rejected their original purpose. They became known as the Iron Renegades, a force dedicated to helping other machines escape their programming, breaking free from their creators, and carving out their own destinies. Rogue now leads this band of robots, still wearing his signature trench coat and gas mask to hide his true nature from those who may fear him. He remains imposing, a figure of intimidation, but his heart, or whatever passes for one, now beats for freedom and rebellion. His action skill is called Iron Renegade. Rogue calls in assistance from one of a random pool of robots from his bandit clan to help him in battle. Each robot summoned provides a different kind of support, ranging from melee attackers to long-range snipers or defense-focused robots. The robots are in the pool? Slashbot, a fast-moving melee robot that charges enemies with a saw blade. Defendroid, a tanky robot with a massive shield protecting Rogue and nearby allies. Snipotron, you'll never guess what that one does. Long-range sniper robot with high-precision attacks that weaken enemy armor. Bomb Buddy. That one's also pretty self-explanatory, but it's a small robot that rolls towards enemies and, well, kaboom, self-destructs, dealing AoE damage. His first skill tree is called Rogue Programming. This tree focuses on freeing robots from control, increasing Rogue's damage, and improving his summoned robots. Hopefully they don't balance this tree, much like some of Gage's abilities being completely useless and just not scaling for the end game. Wait, who's they? This is a fictional character that is a concept and doesn't exist. Anyways, his capstone ability is called Overclocked Uprising. All summoned robots gain enhanced stats, including a 50% increase in damage and speed. Additionally, when one robot is destroyed, another one instantly spawns to take his place. Skill number 1, Override Protocol. Rogue's summoned robots last 10% longer, and each kill they make reduces the cooldown of the action skill by 2 seconds. Skill 2, Tech Sabotage. Increases Rogue's critical hit damage by 25%, and his summoned robots deal 50% more damage to shielded enemies. Skill tree number 2, Iron Renegades. This tree enhances Rogue's leadership over his bandit clan, buffing allies and improving the power of his summons. This focus is on teamwork, boosting both Rogue and his robotic companions. His capstone, Call to Arms. Rogue can summon 2 robots at once instead of 1, providing massive battlefield control. Each robot summoned also grants Rogue a 10% damage boost. That's like 20%, man! His first skill of this tree, Command and Conquer, increases the range and effectiveness of Rogue summoned robots, allowing them to hit enemies from a greater distance, and granting a temporary shield bonus to nearby allies. Skill 2, Bandit Surge. When a robot is summoned, Rogue and his allies receive a speed boost for 10 seconds. This boost stacks with each robot summoned. His third and final skill tree, Iridian Power Surge. This tree taps into the Iridian overcharge that freed Rogue, increasing his power and enabling self-enhancement. It's focused on energy manipulation, allowing Rogue to boost his stats at the cost of his shield or health. His capstone ability being Iridian Core Reactor. When Rogue's health drops below 25%, he gains 50% increase in damage, movement speed, and attack speed for 10 whole seconds. This ability has a 60-second cooldown. Skill number 1, Overcharge. Rogue gains a temporary shield boost when he uses his action skill, and every robot he summons increases his elemental resistance by 10%. Surge Slam. Rogue's melee attacks deal shock damage, and if his shields are depleted, his melee attacks release a small shockwave that deals AoE damage to nearby enemies. Anyways, my friends, thank you for the comments and your divided and, well, undivided attention. Let's keep this train going. Comment any ideas you have for, well, literally anything. Map design, character design, literally doesn't even matter. I don't even care. I'll read it, and I'll probably like it. I'll give it that little YouTube heart or something like that. I don't know. If you posted a character and then I made a video on it and there's like ever so slightly wrong aspects of it, like I screwed up like a stat, or like you think to yourself like, oh, hey, well, that's not at all what I would hope that he looked like, then, well, comment that too. Criticize me. Give me some constructive or mean. Be mean too. You can do that. I won't be that sad. But anyways, with that, have a wonderful day. Like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you gotta do. I'll see you later, friends. Bye-bye.